for life engineering, processes that combine science, wisdom, and spirituality to build a life of alignment. Joining Dr. Pat is your host, Gabriela Embon, bringing you bi-weekly wisdom nuggets, your step-by-step guidance to build a life of no regrets. Stay tuned as they uncover powerful processes for you to realize your true potential. Are you ready for some magic wisdom? Life engineering starts now.
Hey, everybody, welcome. Yeah, this is a really special. This is such an important episode of Life Engineering with Gabriela. And Gabriela, this is why this is so important. It's the science of human differentiation, how to feel good with who you are as you are. Now, I will tell you this, that the world of psychology has changed drastically in less than 30 years in trying to understand this, because we live in a world now where you literally cannot hide, right? Why was this important? And let's talk about how this human differentiation turns ourselves into comparison geeks and how we can be at peace with who we are, right? Because this is really the question mark. Are you at peace with who you are?
That's right. That's right. This is so powerful. I got inspired for this episode. That I always like to share why, the inspiration behind each episode. So this got inspired from a class that I recently taught in Philippines. And I was teaching the science of human differentiation and how we are designed to create. But even with clients, you see, Dr. Pat, one of the most fulfilling part of coaching is when you show a person what makes them unique. You show them their design, and by doing so, you actually help them validate themselves. You help them understand themselves, and they're giving themselves permission to be who they are. They go, oh, so there's nothing wrong with me. It's actually my design. Let's just balance myself with it. Let's align with it. And then I will just allow myself to be authentic. Because one of the biggest fears we have, and you know this, is to be who we are and to express ourselves authentically, right?
Yeah.
So the alternative is, when we don't do that, is to wear a mask, right? To hide. But the problem with that is that it takes so much mental space and so much effort to hide our true self who wants to shine. And then we create what we call internal disconnection when we do that. And internal disconnection will always lead to external disconnection, to unhappiness, and to the inability to connect genuinely with people. So this episode will offer clarity and insight on the science of human differentiation, as well as practical tips to embrace ourselves fully without comparing ourselves to others, as you previously said.
Yeah, and I love this because there's a part of this where our uniqueness has been given to us as a birthright. And yet, if we can hold on to that, I mean, I went through a corporate career where I got great high performance, it promoted to executive, but almost everyone, as an executive, it says, we love her, but we think she's on another planet. Now, I mean, that was written in the review, and I used to feel bad about that. Now, in what I'm doing in the world, I'm like, that is like one of my greatest assets.
Yeah, that's usually the case. What people perceive as our weakness is our superpower. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Let's understand why we compare ourselves. And not only we're trying to change ourselves, but as you experience, we try to change other people. So if we look at the science of comparison, or why we do what we do, we can categorize 3 different mindsets, right? We have the child mindset. Now, as children, when we are hopefully in a child mindset only when we are children, we have some adults there yet, but as children, we compare ourselves to fit in and to be the same. Because children believe that to belong, we have to be the same. So fitting in provides a sense of safety, especially with friends, because, at home, we're pretty much homogenic. We all belong to the same family. We all have the same last name, right? We all come from the same place and eat the same foods. But when we get outside with friends, we are desperately trying to fit in. As a way of belonging. There's a big difference between belonging and fitting in.
Yeah.
So since children are not very clear of who they are anyways, because they're building their identity, the default is to just decide that I'm going to be what I need to be by emulating other people. So naturally, a child will compare them with others to emulate others. And then we have the next mindset, which is the adult mindset. As adults, right, after we have emulating other people, we had created a disconnection. We are already disconnected from our true selves. That internal disconnection can leave us insecure, right? Because I feel that fake, I'm not who I am, so I cannot be in my power. So when we feel insecure, again, we will compare ourselves with others, but this time, it's not going to be so much to fit in. It's going to be better, to compete for a raise, to have a promotion. Am I doing better than the other one? So I can get that promotion. Just so we feel worthy, right? Because now we are actually correlating our success to worthiness. While as children, we correlate our belonging or fitting in to worthiness. Not only that, as adults, we compare almost to compete, right? But we also want to change others to be what we want them to be. So it goes like, I will change my spouse to be more like this and this and this. So we're not embracing our true self, and we're also not allowing others to embrace. We're not allowing others to be who they are. We're not embracing other people's uniqueness.
Yeah. And boy, as we get older and older and older, and I'm not talking older and older and older, I mean, when we start to move into relationships and relationships with others, whether it's a boss or it's a love relationship or something, there is the opportunity to really start to compare and change, right? Rather than compare and accept. And I think that where we are now is what you're talking about is, what are the pros and cons of all of this? Why is it important for us to understand the dynamic to begin with? And I think what you're saying is, in the world we're living in today, every day there's more and more of an opportunity for you to flip that comparison switch and go down the rabbit hole with that. And that's not always the best thing for you.
That's right. The ideal will be to actually transition into that, what we call more wisdom mindset. To release all that conditioning, to release all that not belonging, regrets, rejection that we might carry from our childhood, our adult life, and arrive to a more balanced inner peace way of living, in which we are not willing to be unauthentic anymore, right? It's the option of being not authentic is unbearable. And not only that, we want to surround ourselves with people that are authentic, and we want to embrace people for what and who they are. But getting there, of course, takes inner work, self-reflection, and just doing the work, really. It's the healing process. It's the most rewarding process because it is important to be authentic. And we're talking about authenticity. We're going to share why is it important, but let's explain what it means to be authentic. Authenticity, we can be very practical. Yes, it means that we embrace ourselves and express ourselves fully. Okay? The question, of course, is how do we do that? In very practical terms, it means that we're leading a life of congruency and alignment to who we are. But congruency and alignment has to come at two different levels. One is what I choose to create in my life, what I choose to become in my life. And the other is how I am approaching that goal. The path, it's not just the destination. The path itself also has to be congruent and aligned to how I am designed to create. Mm-hmm. So for example, when I changed my career from engineering to coaching, that was an act of course correction in my professional life. to create more congruency and authenticity. And of course, people had a lot to say about that. She has gone nuts, but
right.
whether they express it or not, but that's okay. We don't need permission to be who we are. Does it make sense?
It does make sense. And you know, there are some things that we're going to talk about today that are really important, but there's an inner knowing that I know you're going to tap into. There's an inner knowing. And, you know, if you're fortunate like me and the internet happens and then ancestry happens and you could look up your relatives, you can understand why growing up, you wanted to take Latin dance music. Why growing up, you wanted to listen to Latin music? Why growing up? Now, when you're growing up and you come from the family I come from, the secrets are afoot, but nobody understands that. And then you find out, like I did not too long ago, and a very accidental, really cool thing my friend does for like a hobby, this genealogy, and she looks up my grandfather. And my grandfather, where was he born?
Brazil, right?
That's
right. I remember.
Now, it doesn't matter that I don't remember, but I do remember the time with my grandfather. And I do remember the gardens he grew. And I do remember the music. But you can grow up an entire life trying not to be who you are, yet inside, you know, there's an influence, and it's painful. It's painful.
And you probably found out who you are because you were doing your work, which allowed for more inner connection.
Exactly.
And then the answers were coming because the answers are always inside. But when we are disconnected, it seems that we don't have access to them, right? As we start walking towards ourselves, we start discovering what's amazing and what's unique about us and why we do that. That validation, I love that validation of why you love a certain music, right? So the answers and the emotion we want it to be towards inside, self-connection to then connect with others. And that requires that we stop comparing ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, we want to foster, if anything, inner comparison, not outer comparison.
Let's talk about that for a minute for people that don't know what inner comparison is, because I think this is the key to freedom. Please tell us a little bit more about that, would you?
Yes, of course. So inner comparison is not about being more or less than other people. So clearly not comparing ourselves with others. But it's really about measuring. We love measuring. Our brain loves measuring. It's about measuring how far we are from what my soul is here to experience. In other words, what's the gap from my highest potential? Right? So because everything is relative, right? If you have an A plus or an A for a strong student, it's not the same as an A for an average student. So it's not that we want to compare who got the A. We want to compare who got the A based on their potential, right? Because when we compare with others, not only that we are comparing to those around us, we usually compare to those that are ahead of us. It's like me comparing myself with with somebody that is doing what I'm doing for 50 years.
Right.
I'm doing a disservice to myself, right? And I mean, if that inspires anybody, by all means, that's okay. But for me, it's very disempowering. So what I suggest is to replace that external comparison with internal comparison. Where was I yesterday? Am I doing better than yesterday? Am I doing better than last year, right? And to measure the progress and how far I am to where I know, my soul know I can be. So not only we don't want to compare with others, we don't want to compare where people are, the level of success with others, but also we don't want to compare. And this is the hardest part. We don't want to compare to how they got there.
Yeah.
Because this is what we do. We believe that success leaves clues. And in a way it does. But the problem with that is that not everybody creates the same way. So I might not compare to the level of success with another coach, let's say. But I remember when I started as a coach, I was comparing what they were doing. So if they were writing a book, I would think I need to write a book. If they had a blog, I need to have a blog. So that's comparing the path to success, not only the destination is different, it has to be congruent to every person, but we all have a unique, congruent way of creating. That's the science of differentiation. We don't create the same way. What might be aligned for this coach might be completely incongruent for me. And that's important, because then you release that pressure, right, to do what others are doing, to be what others are being. And you literally focus on just being you, which is the easiest thing to do, actually. That's to be authentic. And then when you do that, you are going to find a treasure of creativity. Okay? Yeah. This is where your creative power is found, that is hidden. We all have that creative power, and we have the creativity to operate according to our design. Right?
Yeah. But, and but one of the things let's talk about this for a minute, because what you're talking about is so critical. I want to say it again to people. I learned, my best friend is let me just categorize it like this. I am a top-down learner. I need to see what the landscape looks like at 70,000 feet above. Like, put me on Mount Rainier. Let me look at the landscape. My best friend, who is also one of our producers, Linda, she has to start at the bottom. She doesn't care about what it looks like at the top of Mount Rainier. She's at the bottom saying, these are how many roads here. These are the obstacles. And if you don't understand the differences and honor that in each other, that's like putting oil and vinegar together, right?
That's right. And isn't that fascinating that as humans, on one hand, we have the similar conditioning, right? But on the other hand, we have completely designs, and they're all perfect. And not only perfect for what we are here to create. And that's why we need other people to create, right? Because to create, we need different ways of thinking, different talents. We don't have them all. We have to honor the one we have, and then partner with those who complement what we don't have, like you're doing with Linda.
Totally.
Absolutely. Me and my husband the same, right? That's right. I am more tactical. He's more strategic. So once we understood that our designs are completely different, and that I actually create by surrounding myself with people that are different than me, no wonder my spouse is very different than me, then problem solved. I'm not trying to change him. He's not trying to change me. We just honor. Like you said, that word is so beautiful. It's about honoring and embracing our uniqueness. And what can we do when we combine them?
Oh, and that is the powerful part of this, that each person gets to live authentically. And when you put the two together, you are better than what you are individually. Right. If we can follow what you're saying here today, right?
That's right. We are better. And that's a whole different topic that we'll get to sometime, about the union of compatible soulmates. But we're not there. I can go there easily. Don't poke the bear. But
but it is
a topic that I'm very passionate about.
I am very passionate too. I'm glad we mentioned it, and we'll talk about it as we go. But you have to understand these basics. I'm systemic. I'm organic. Linda's linear. We could have had a major argument this morning on what ingredients I put in my cucumber shake. Okay. But that's what we're talking about, is that we live in a world where, I don't know about your experience. I wish you would talk to this though, but I work coach women. And when I do, invariably 80% will say I'm not creative. Now we know what, that's not true, right? No. Okay. But let's talk about that, because there's a part of that where you have to move forward on a pathway that allows you to see the beauty of that in yourself. And sometimes it takes a leap of faith.
Absolutely. And, you know, they say you're not creative. That's because you create differently. And we sometimes perceive that our way of creating is the creative way. But you mentioned being systemic, being linear, being organic. Yes, people create differently. My husband is very organic, step by step, right? I'm systemic. I tackle the entire system at once. So we create differently. No way is better than others. You know, people say, you are the average of the people you surround yourself with. Well, if you are more of a similar creator, yeah, but I surround myself with people that are very different than me because I create through contrast. Or people that create more internally, they create external change by working on themselves. And people that create more externally, they create working with others. So people treat them the way they treat others. While me, people, because I'm more internal, people treat me the way I treat myself. So there's no one formula fit all. This is what's really important to understand. And each formula is creative.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody's creative. I think diversity exercises our power of choice and free will. And listen, we're here also, part of what we're here to learn is the relationship between choice and consequence. If we all created the same way, that would be very boring.
I mean, look, what we're talking about, we're going to do more shows on this, but I want to talk about why it's important to do this. If you take Linda, her sister, we're all three here, and me, I'm systemic, Karen's organic, and Linda's linear. On any given day, if you watch who cuts Karen's 1 acre grass, you could tell who did it. How? Right? If when I do it, you could see where I begin and how I work the yard. When Linda does it, everything is lined up. You could see every line in the grass. When Karen does it, it's hard to figure out where she started.
That's right.
And
organic people, you think they're not creating. It seems like you're doing nothing and you go, how did you get here? I have no idea. I cannot reverse engineer, but they created a masterpiece.
Exactly.
Right?
But you're saying, look, you got to let people be the people. It's not easy. I'm sorry.
It's not, because we're also conditioned on what's right and wrong, and we're conditioned to compare and judge everything, right? Everything, especially the way things should be, because we were taught formulas. But today we understand that one formula doesn't fit all. Yeah. And authenticity is extremely important. Yeah. It's one of the key ingredients of a happy life. We cannot be happy if we are not who we are. And there's a reason for that, right? We came here to create according to our design, the way whoever you believe created you. For me, is God created me perfectly to live my design. So when I'm not in my design, I am unhappy. And that's the way of the universe, the creator, telling me, you're misaligned, go back, align yourself. And then that happiness we feel when we are authentic, right? That's the sign that, I am in the right spot. It's like wearing shoes that are not your size. When you're not wearing the right size, you don't want to go for a walk. You don't want to do anything. It's painful. But when you're wearing the right shoes, you can conquer the world. You can climb any mountain. Yeah. So the formula for happiness requires, it has different components. I believe one of them is faith, right? But another one is authenticity, is leading an authentic life, which is what we've been talking about, a life of no regrets.
You've got to put them together. Let's talk a little bit more about this because we have time. I love your definition of happiness and I love it. But let's talk about faith for a minute. I mean, if you live a life of comparison, which makes you feel less than, let me just use this term, less than. In order for you to step into your authenticity, you must consider a leap of faith. You must consider faith and belief in yourself. You have to be able to consider something different than the conditioning that got you to not be authentic, right? Did that make sense what I said right there?
Totally.
You know how important this is? Do you hear me stuttering? See, that's a childhood thing. And when something hits a nerve of mine, which is a lifelong struggle, you could hear me stutter a little bit. Now I laugh about it a little bit. But it is the truth of this, to take that step. Where do you start? What do we say to people today? Because we need tools.
Yes. So one of the things, one concrete tool is really to compare yourself internally. And also to observe how, what you like and what feels in alignment with you. I'll give you an example, okay? Talking with Jessica from your network the other day. She says, why don't you do a show of 1 hour? I'm like, Jessica, I don't listen to shows of 1 hour. Why would I buy, why would I sell what I would never buy? Okay, we're not selling shows, but you know what I mean.
I do.
I don't like listening. I do listen to shows of 1 hour, but I prefer not to. Okay, they have
Yeah.
to be very enticing for me to go after that. I like simplicity. I like my soul gift is the common sense and wisdom. Is about simplicity and straight to the point efficiency. So if I were to do for me a show of an hour, that is not in alignment to how I create. So you want to pay attention. I always tell people, if you want to open a vegetable stand in a market, and you have two markets in your city, and you're thinking, which one should I go for? But go for the one where you buy. Don't try to sell where you never buy. So that is as simple as understanding, people say, should I advertise on YouTube? Well, do you watch YouTube videos? Because if you never watch YouTube videos, then you should not advertise there. No. It's not in alignment. So, but this is do it yourself when you really start observing your behavior. But of course, today we have incredible tools to check people's design. Some of them are online and they're free, whether you're checking your human design or you're learning about your Akashic records, or you seek the help of a coach or that can help you with that. But these tools offer people the validation of who they are, and as a consequence, the permission, not that they need our permission, they will give themselves permission to embrace their uniqueness. Yeah. And this is really, to be completely honest, this is really cool. Imagine a manager in a company that has a team of employees. If you knew everybody's design, your productivity will be at a whole different level, because you will know exactly where to place every person and what to ask from every person and how to talk to every person according to their design. Does it make sense?
It makes sense, because that's the way we operate. We know nothing gets past Linda. She is the queen of detail. We understand that. On the other end of it, I've got to see the system, the big picture. So I'm auditing our new technology, in a finite way, in a systematic way. But if you're organic, you put up a widget, you think it looks good, and you call it a day. And, all of that works together, but you have to be at the place where you can see it. I think that's what you're offering, and that understanding. Right. One is you have to see the value in the differences of each other. And then the other thing is they have to work more with you to understand, or a coach, how to manifest the highest level from that. That's usually the missing piece. That's where you cannot. I don't know about you. I've not been able to do this alone. I've had people, even today, coaches to help me.
That's right. Yes. Let's just say that the solution is out there. Whether you seek it, doing it yourself, or you seek a professional help, there is a way. And listen, this is all about better relationships. The way I parent my 3 children, the way I relate with my husband, has tremendously changed since I learned about their design. And what it did as a result, it created, actually my mom commented on this, on the relationship with my children, it created a relationship based on trust. Because trust is created when I don't feel you're trying to change me or you disapprove me. So we have built, it can bring me to tears to think about that. I feel that the biggest accomplishment as parents is to build a relationship based on trust with my children, with your spouse, at work. I think this is what this work does. Yeah. I do have some final words, but I'll let you comment on that, and then I'll shift.
No, I don't. We can do. I think we should do a whole show on it. I so believe in trust because I know about mistrust. I studied it for 10 years. I researched it. I won awards for the research because I didn't understand. I didn't understand the pain that comes from not building trust. But let's talk about the final words. And now we have committed to do a show on trust.
Yes. That's right. I'll write it down. Okay.
Okay. Let's bring this around, because today this is one of the most important things and most challenging things for people of all ages, by the way.
That's right. Listen, what I have to say is this. We come to this life to build and to create containers. We are builders, right? What to build is our free will. We get to choose with our intention. It's also part of our soul desire. But how to build is all about our creative process. So both have to be in alignment with who we are, congruent to who we are. And honoring both, what we are choosing to create and how, allows us to live authentically and create with ease and grace. Hustle is lack of congruency and alignment. And course correction is the power of choice to shift from misalignment to alignment.
Thank you for today. Please, if people want to find out more about you, also about the Coaching Academy, let's talk to people about, one, how they can get some help and how they can help others. What's the best way for them to find out about you?
So for those who feel that coaching others and helping people live their full potential is congruent and in alignment with them, we have an amazing spiritual life coaching certification. The details are at coachingacademy.net, and cohort 18 starts in September 14.
I love it. Gabriela, thank you so much. For those of you out there, I know it's a lot to take in. Please listen to this again and understand that really this alignment of congruency, happiness, faith, and authenticity, it's at your fingertips. If you're like me, you got to go get some help. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Dr. Pat.
You have been listening to Life Engineering, processes that combine science, wisdom, and spirituality to create a life of alignment on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Join host Gabriela Embon and Dr. Pat every first and third Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific for bi-weekly wisdom nuggets on how to create your perfect synergy between your mind, body, and spirit in order to realize your true potential. For more information, visit Gabriela at coachingacademy.net.